And then on to our final task here in this module on users and computers. We want to talk about doing an offline domain join for servers that for some reason cannot connect directly up into the rest of our Active Directory infrastructure. Now, as I said in the introduction to this module, this is a step that you probably won't find yourself doing all that often. In most cases, the creation of a new computer probably happens perhaps in the IT location where you're building those new laptops or desktops. But sometimes you may have a situation where you've got a user in some remote location that doesn't have direct connectivity with the rest of your network and so can't attach their computer directly to your domain. In the old days, there was no real good way to fix this, but these days we have this tool called djoin, a little command line tool called djoin that presents an ability, if I do djoin question mark here, which presents the ability to pre-provision an Active Directory computer account and then generate a little file once that's done, which we can then copy over to the computer, install into the correct location, and use that file as the mechanism to complete the joining of that machine into Active Directory. We're effectively accomplishing the same series of steps that we would do with a traditional Active Directory join. We're just separating it out with the use of this file and the content in that file to complete the authentication. So let's go through just a couple of steps that we would need to do to first create that computer account in Active Directory. In order to do that, we'll use the djoin command and then really a long series of parameters here. So here's provision and then domain company.pri. Then the machine we're looking for is going to be server1. The save file that we'll be creating will be server1.txt. This will go about creating that computer account there in Active Directory. And if I take a look here at the computers OU, I should here see there's my server1 computer account that's been added into Active Directory. What I can also see, if we take a look then here at the root of C, is this server1.txt file, which includes a very long series of letters and numbers, which is effectively the shared secret that you would use on the remote machine to complete the addition to the domain. I should mention that you should be very careful with these TXT files once they're created, because your Active Directory is anticipating a connection from a machine that has actually processed this file. So once you create these files, keep them close at hand until you complete getting them onto that remote computer. Let me then flip back over to our computer server1 here, and I'm going to log on just as a local administrator onto this machine so that we can take a look at this final step in the process. I want to show you that this is one of the computers that we were dealing with back a couple of courses ago that was named that win-long series of letters and numbers. I've gone through here to rename the computer as server1 so that we can change it from its workgroup mode over into a full Active Directory connected mode. Let's begin that process here on this machine by copying the file that we just created over on our DC machine here locally so that we can make use of it. I've mapped a drive here, the Z drive, to the DC computer so that on the root of C I can grab our server1.txt file, and I'll just throw that file here onto the desktop so that we can make use of it. With that done, let's go ahead and open up a traditional command prompt here, and we'll set it as an elevated command prompt so that we can work with it for the purposes of actually completing this domain join. Let me make sure that I've got the file there. There's my server1.txt file. And so the second use of the djoin command that I need is djoin request offline domain join. Then I need to load the file. That file is server1.txt. And then I need to do Windows path %system roots. That's the path for Windows. And then configure this as a local OS. This should allow me to go about actually completing this join of this machine server1 into my Active Directory domain. As you can see here, we've loaded the provisioning data from that file server1, and the request is completed successfully, but we are going to need to reboot for those changes to be applied. Let me go ahead and reboot this machine so that we can take a look at what happens now that we've added this machine server1 here into our Active Directory domain. With the reboot complete, let me see if I can log in here, and yep, there we go. I can now log in as my username into the company domain, which I couldn't do before because it was only in a work group. This gives you that ability, again, to offline domain join machines when they're not directly connected up to the rest of your Active Directory environment.